Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Look at this. It's true. It's true. It's two. It's two. And it's Wednesday, March 2nd. March 2nd. Another month, another day. Let's CP the world away. It's D to the J with the roll away. And we're live on My CP Does Not Define Me. We're live on the Disability Global Broadcast, Facebook Live, and on StreamYard. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the show. As you come in, please feel free to leave a comment. Let us know where you are, who you are, and how you are doing. Because if you don't leave a comment, we don't know who you are. Again, I'd like to thank everybody. Welcome to show 85. Yes, the show is getting older, but much wiser as we have slowly dug into 2022. And the time is going. They say time flies as you get older, and I guess they're not lying. So welcome to the show, everybody. We've got our friend Tony back with us for part two now. I'm going to let Tony just introduce himself a little bit and kind of give a little bit of background on himself. Tony, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming back for part two.
Yeah, thanks for having me, DJ. I really appreciate it, and it's always an honor to be on the show here. My name is Tony, and I live in Kansas City, and I'm a disability advocate here and also participate in wheelchair CrossFit. So I do try to kind of keep myself active and try to keep moving. Just helps with the disability and whatnot. But, so I'd say that, for the most part, just a general disability advocate, just get out there and try to be visible as much as I can to let people know that, your disability, as DJ says, doesn't have to define you. So.
Okay. Just remind our viewers, if you would, what kind of cerebral palsy you have.
I don't really know exactly what type of cerebral palsy I have. I've seen from a previous show that you did that they're, I guess it's more spastic. My muscles tend to sort of spasm and my legs kind of freak out. And I know on your last show you kind of described how they had to separate your legs and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So and I could relate to that because I have a similar experience with a lot of that. So, but I don't really know what type of CP it actually is.
Well, I guess for my first question, now there's some things that I want to we'll get to, but now you said Kansas City, so the question I want to ask you there, how is it? I mean, if you wanted to say get evaluated and actually know what type of CP you had, what is the I guess the level of medical in Kansas City, because I'm not really familiar with it as far as Kansas City itself. How easy would it be for you to get evaluated or get a doctor or a therapist or get somebody that to that you can trust and get evaluated properly?
Yeah, I mean, as of now, I probably would contact the Independent Living Center and try to seek out some resources. I don't know that there is a specific doctor that specializes in cerebral palsy. I mean, I've heard from friends that the University of Kansas actually has a program where they can evaluate someone with cerebral palsy. I mean, it's not something that I've looked into until you mentioned, what type of CP do you have? I was diagnosed with infantile cerebral palsy, and it actually took, I guess, my parents about a year after I was born or 2 years after I was born for them to officially diagnose me with cerebral palsy. Mm-hmm. The doctors really did not want to diagnose me with cerebral palsy. All that my parents knew was there's something going on because he can't sit, he can't, and whenever they would sit me in a chair or put me on the couch, I'd just fall over, type thing. And they didn't really know what was going on.
Is that, and I want to ask this question because, being that you're an adult now and doing things on your own, is that something that interests you? I mean, are you, I'm not trying to be kind of lackadaisical.
No. It would definitely be interesting for me to learn because I've also, before I came on the show, before I moved into this house, I, wanted to know more about the Independent Living Center in California in Fresno, where I went to school. It was, the Ginsburg School for People with Disabilities. So it was a school where, we were basically segregated from the general, population, as it were, and we all had disabilities, and I wanted to know more about that school and what they taught us and the independent living skills that I learned there as a child. Because today I find that we really don't teach independent living skills at an early age as much as we should. And I know a lot of it, they say, well, it's up to the parent to do that, but I also feel like it should be somewhat integrated in our day-to-day lives as well.
I agree with that 100%. I think that's, there are some things in life you can't teach, but I think those basic skills should be integrated, because there are skills that you have to have that some parents can't teach, because in the generation they were in, they didn't have the technology that we have now. So you got these washers and dryers with all these magic buttons and cycles and this, that, and the other, and you're like, how do I start this daggone thing?
Right. No,
nothing is simple anymore.
No, it's not that simple. And I actually had to learn how to reuse my washer dryer as moving into my new house. And that, now that you say that, because I had one of those old school ones with the agitator in the middle.
Yeah.
And you've got to stand up and like put the stuff in and like the whole. And so, transitioning into my own home has been a journey, and it's been a learning experience, and kind of relearning, the basics, of how to do certain things again, because like you said, the technology is different. But the Ginsberg School taught me a lot of what I know about my independent living skills, and I'm really, thankful for that in Fresno, California.
What and this is kind of a question, kind of bracing off of what you just said. What have you kind of learned on your own through living that you went, well, I didn't know that, but I know it now?
Well, I think certainly what you have to really do is learn to be your own self-advocate. And what I mean by that is, you know your body better than anyone else, and no one can understand truly how you feel or how you go about your day, because they're not you. Okay, so what we have to learn to do is sort of learn to articulate to people that are around us, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I need to do, and this is why. And so that they understand, why things have to be set up a certain way. For example, like in my kitchen, I have, off to, the side, I have a shelf where I keep most of my everyday dishes, because, being able to grab them off the shelf is easier than trying to reach over in an upper cabinet and reach those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then just sort of, keeping an open floor and not allowing things to just lay on the floor, because if they are on the floor, I'm going to run them over and they're going to get stuck in my tires.
Well, and the thing about it is, I watch the channel, the YouTube hacks, and I'll tell you, the YouTube hacks have really helped me as far as with hanging stuff up and moving stuff around to where I can reach it, and learning you can, bend this way and bend that way and make this. You really have to make it your own. And I like the way you said, you have to kind of find out for yourself what works for you, but that's in everyday life as well as living experiences, because when you're on your own for the first time and there's nobody there and you're like, oh God, what do I do now?
Right. And so, yeah, that's true. And it's like, okay, sometimes my friends will come over and they'll accidentally put something on an upper shelf that I really need. I'm like, darn it, it's up on the upper shelf and I can't reach it. And so I try to keep things, down low to where I can reach it. And sometimes, you have to remind your friends, to keep things down low for you. Because, naturally we walk into a space and, people that are taller want to put things up higher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Did your family or friends or people in your relative circle, I'll put it that way,
right?
My mom would come in and go, can I move this here? Does this work better here? Can I do this here? And I'm like, Mom, just leave stuff where it is. Like, I love the fact that she was trying to help, but right. I'm like, no, Mom, it's fine. No, don't touch, Mom. Just, can you? And you're trying to tell her, but she's thinking, practically trying to help you. Now, some suggestions she would make would work, but like you have to go through 26 suggestions to get through.
That's true. And I mean, I think, and I think people have good intentions when they do that. Mm-hmm. And, my circle of friends and family right now are very sensitive to the fact that, when they come over, I want them to be a guest in my home. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to feel like they have to help me or stop doing what they're doing, enjoying, let's say we're, watching a movie or, enjoying some music, having a party. I don't want them to have to stop and feel like they have to, help me so that I can accomplish, making a meal, for instance. Maybe I want to throw down and make some wings, that type of thing. So I want to make sure that everything is accessible. So we're, as a group, as a family, I guess, working on trying to figure out, what works best and how can we get this set up 100%, accessible to you, so that, when they come over, it's just a matter of hanging out, having fun, and not really worrying about all that accessibility stuff.
So talking about accessibility, you just recently moved into a brand new house built from the ground up. You want to explain kind of a little bit of that process, just to kind of, let our viewers know?
I mean, I worked with Habitat, through the process of, building this home and trying to figure out, what's accessible, what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say it was a bit of a journey, just learning to articulate, why it is that you need a certain thing. Like, for example, in my kitchen, I have handrails inside the pantry. Okay. And at first they were like, well, why do you need handrails inside the pantry? And I said, well, if I'm bending over to grab something out of my pantry, I don't want to fall over. So I hang onto the handrail with one hand, and then I reach in with my other hand and grab whatever I need to grab. So inside the pantry, you open up the doors and there's two handrails on the side. And I did the same thing in my closet. Mm-hmm. So if I'm trying to get dressed or whatever, I have a handrail right by the closet where I can use that to leverage to get dressed in the morning and things of that nature. So those were things that they were like, well, it's not really sort of what we would do, because it's not always an aesthetically pleasing type of situation, but something that I was working towards, showing them that you can make something functional. It doesn't always have to be for aesthetics or for
I think we need to get past the aesthetic part, because everybody is all that looks so great. I feel like we need to have this Disability 101 banner. Okay, right. This is how this works. I'm in a manual chair. I'm in a power chair. If I lean, because I weigh 200 pounds, myself's going to go this way. If I got handrails to hold on to, I'm not going to fall. Let's not fall on the floor.
And my attitude is, handrails, put them everywhere. Everywhere you think you're going to need a handrail, put them everywhere. Even in my kitchen, I've had them install some additional handrails to help me with leverage and sort of balancing and that type of thing, because balance is something that I struggle with as someone with cerebral palsy. Even as I make my transfer, I might need something to hold on to so I can balance. And it
doubles as a towel rack. There you go.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so, things like that. I mean, and it's a learning process overall.
So how did you, now you said Habitat, for Humanity is the...
Yeah, Habitat for Humanity. Yes, that's correct.
How did you start the process with it? What was the...
Well, I mean, I actually really didn't start the process. I mean, my partner, I guess, best friend, I guess, started that journey for me, actually, because he says, Tony, you're always taking care of other people. You're not taking care of yourself. So we literally went down to the Independent Living Center, and he's like, well, we're going to apply. So I applied, and the whole process, I think, took about 2 years. Because of COVID, there were some delays, and I didn't really know I was getting selected, and my physical ability was kind of dwindling a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I was to the point where, hey, I contacted the Independent Living Center and said, hey, well, if I don't have this type of accessibility, I think that the best option for me is to be put in an institution, aka nursing home. Mm-hmm. And they said, wait, well, don't do that just yet, because there's some things happening that you don't know about. And they kind of kept it from me for a while. And I was doing my research on nursing homes and this and that and the other, because I felt like I was kind of at that point, where I needed to do something where I could take a shower comfortably and safely, and right. And those things, and so and through that process, they said, have you been selected by Habitat? And then we started that process, and I went through sweat equity, and I got to participate in the build and go through that journey. I learned how to use a nail gun, which was pretty awesome. And I did some construction on the house. And for me, that experience was probably more invigorating, and it gave me a zeal for, I guess, greater independence, being able to work on my own home. I don't know what was more exciting, was being able to work on my home or the fact that I was becoming a homeowner. It's like, but you know what?
I can definitely see where you're coming from. When I lived in Waynesboro, I got a chance to work with a crew called Home Innovations. And I remember the first time I used a nail gun. And I'm talking about the industrial big.
The pressure that comes back at you, it's like, oh, wow,
So I have the nail gun and I'm like, say hello to my little friend, everybody's laughing, because I'm like, who wants to talk to me now?
Yeah, no, and I think,
and they're going, oh God, we put a nail gun in his hand. This is not run, everybody clear the room. But using it, and then there's a real sense of accomplishment, I think.
There is. I mean, and that's the one thing that I reflect back on. Becoming a homeowner and going through this journey. It's something that I've always wanted to do, but being able to work on my own home and build it. And so now I'm kind of working on sort of trying to figure out what an accessible yard looks like. And I've been doing some research trying to design my own wheelchair accessible yard because the land here is not real level, not real smooth, so you can't really roll around.
One of the questions I had with that, and just to since we're on that, and I want to read a comment here in just a second, but I said to myself, when I move into my home or when I get my home, I'm going to blacktop my yard, and everybody thought I was crazy, but you know what? I love the idea of a blacktop because you can do so much with it. You can have, a basketball court. You can have, outside play. You can have a grilling area. Now, you could do that over on the side on the driveway, and I get that. Right. You got your little, but I don't want that little square.
And I do have a wide driveway that they did install, and they did put that in for me. But, I like to barbecue. I like to be outside on a grill. And so, like, I really want to be able to move around and be outside, have a fire pit, for the times when the weather's perfect for that sort of thing. So what I've been doing
about Tony is he definitely loves to eat. We've covered the food groups as we go through the show. Wings, now we're on barbecue. Now we got the grill.
Yep. That's true. And I've been known to put some tamales on the grill too. Just.
The last time I had a good tamale, I don't think I've ever had a really good tamale. Man, now I'm gonna leave this show. Be like, Tony got me thinking about stuff I ain't had in a while.
Well, you can have some vitamin O's, okay? You can have some donuts.
So, as far as you talked about some of the handrails in your house, you were talking to me about the bathroom a little bit. Let's kind of get into that because the accessible shower.
I mean, the accessible shower is great. Now, what I did learn, there are some challenges to an accessible shower, especially if they don't build what's like a wet room, where you have a drain in the floor type of thing where the water can sort of drain off. And as a homeowner, new homeowner or prospective homeowner, I didn't know that, you have to have certain types of drywall to put on the drywall to protect it from possible water damage. So what I've ended up doing, now is installing some PVC on the wall to protect the wall from water damage. It's like a plastic, really thick material that you put on the wall. You can actually, it just sort of glues on, and then you can use some what is it, that caulking that they use to seal it on the outside. And so I've learned, you can purchase, like a roll-in shower, like a module that fits over like a space where a tub would be. So my showers were purchased from Freedom Showers. And so there's a lot of different, pieces that they get, and they come in a kit, and they basically like install it where like a tub would be for a standard bathroom.
It's basically a shower overhaul is what they're doing, overhauling the tub.
Yeah, right. And so it's kind of like that. So it's kind of a module, and it has like a little rubber stopper kind of on the side, but water still kind of gets out sometimes. So what I do now is I have to be really careful to make sure that water isn't getting out. And there are some heavy shower curtains that you can purchase that are weighted that keep the water in. So it's not like a standard shower curtain that you purchase and then I've got like a little magnet that goes on the wall to kind of hold it in place.
Now, did you request a roll-in shower?
I did, because the ability to transfer for me is not real easy. I can't get my legs over the tub. I used to do what I would call a tub transfer, where I roll my chair into the bathroom, and then like I use the tilt on my chair and then put my legs over the tub, and then like transfer from the chair, over to the shower chair type of thing. But it gets really, really tricky. And so I was born with hip dysplasia as well. So one of my legs actually always kind of sits out to the to the left a little bit, kind of like the Big Dipper sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have more trouble with that leg than anything else, and I think that kind of gets in my way sometimes. But I kind of deal with it, as it goes. It's got a mind of its own, so it kind of just
I understand the CP there. Trust me,
sticks out there. So
is it easier to get in the shower with what they've done?
It is really easy now. Now I do just sort of a swivel, like I roll up to it and I can get my feet into the shower, and then I can just swivel. There's a bench that they have mounted into and it's mounted into the wall. So then you fold it down and then you just sit down. So the problem I used to have before is, with the shower chair, sometimes it would slip out from under me, and then I am calling the fire department to kind of dig me out of the tub because I got
right. I'm wet. I'm falling down. Need clothes. Help
right,
me out here.
Exactly. And so, and that's very dangerous. And as I've gotten older, that's been really challenging. I used to always just kind of crawl into the tub and crawl out. And at 43, I can't do that no more.
I tell you, you're talking about the crawl in, crawl out. I know that snake crawl, man.
Yeah.
And at 40, if you think I'm snake crawling now, if I snake crawl now, something's gonna happen, and we ain't gonna talk about what that is on the air. So, just a comment here. I want to just read that Don, my buddy Don, actually said. This is a great comment. Built an addition on our home. I want wall plug as high as the light switches. Had a hard time convincing the electrician I can't stand on my head to plug something in. So having those wall switches lower is a big deal there. He said nail gun Carter, and of course that's when
right. No, well that's great.
Then this one here, we put in wider doors for wheelchair. I didn't use one at the time, but planned for the future. What works for me may not work for others. Now, there's something the reason I read this is because when you build a home, it's not necessarily about just right now. And I think a lot of people have allergies are killing me. Have the mindset of I need what I need for right now. What you need, okay, if you're going to move into a house at 41, you're going to live into that house at least 5 years, at least. So if you say, okay, I'm going to live here for 10 years, you got to plan for the future, and you got to say, this is what I'm going to need. And I think with cerebral palsy, a lot of people don't think about, like you were talking about, what accessibility really is, what accessibility really means for each individual. It's going to be different.
Yeah, and let me be honest. I mean, I really didn't necessarily wake up one morning and go, I really want to become a homeowner. And I honestly, in the beginning, I really didn't want to become a homeowner because I was okay with being an apartment dweller for the most part because I could always move around and do things. But the reason I decided to kind of, move towards buying a home and becoming a homeowner is because of the accessibility challenges that I had in apartments. And so one of the things that I always feared was being blacklisted from being able to rent an apartment because of the wheelchair damage. So I had one apartment complex in Texas. After I moved out, they billed me $6,000 for wheelchair damages that were out of my control because they said, hey, by law, we can call this apartment wheelchair accessible because, you can get in through the front door and you can access your bathroom. So the problem is that the law is sufficiently vague enough to allow apartment complexes to call something wheelchair accessible when it's not. And so my fear was that if I don't become a homeowner and I get blacklisted from being able to rent an apartment, then where will I go? And that was always my fear. And I had so much anxiety over that. And one time I moved from an apartment complex and they charged me $6,000, which later I had to roll into a bankruptcy because I couldn't afford to pay it.
Now, see, here's the thing. And I don't know if you did or not, but there would have been a way to fight that because there's something. And what I love about my apartment complex, the owner of when I talked with my owner, when I talked with my landlord, she was very understandable about when we roll outside, we can't control what our chair picks up. Okay, right. So I'm going to need the carpet replaced.
No, you're not kidding.
Every 5 or 10 years. And she understands, but if I'm going to be here for 10 years, which I have been, in this complex, 5 years in one unit, 5 years in another unit, meaning moving from one unit to another from a 2 to a 3 bedroom apartment. You got to find what works for you, but the communication with the landlord is key. And
the problem that I had though was these corporations that that run these large apartment complexes. I mean, I was paying $1,700 for a 300 square foot apartment, and and that was the other thing too. I was looking for affordability. I was looking, those things, and so I was working 2 jobs just to pay rent. And I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I need to get my own place. And I'm going to design it, in my style, my way, and so that I can live life, the way that I want to. So for me, it's a real blessing, to have that. And, they did design a kitchen that was open concept where I like to bake. So I'm a baker. I like to make cookies. So being able to do that, having a wall oven, greatest thing I ever.
You have a wall oven. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And
so I love a wall oven. If it weren't so hot, I'd crawl up in there and hug it. Because that's, I got a comment here, and I love this. Don said they, speaking of the persons that are doing the accessibility, they need to spend a day in a wheelchair for a month living alone and understand what it's like and how hard it is to control a power chair and not bang up doors and not bang up walls and not be able to reach something. Because we talked a little bit about this on the last show, but I want to get this out here because, I feel bad that a complex is going to say, we're going to charge you $6,000 because of wheelchair damage. A lot of people don't understand that wheelchair is your legs, okay? But that wheelchair doesn't sit like normal legs. It's going to stick out, and it's going to move, and it's going to have all of these sharp metal parts that are going to get sharper over time because you run over stuff. It makes it harder to live comfortably when you're worried about everything that happens from point A to point B.
I mean, over the years, I literally stayed at one apartment complex because I decided, well, if I'm renting this unit right now, they can't bill me for anything until I move out. So I'm going to stay here as long as I can, so that they can't bill me for any of this damage until I'm ready to basically buy a home and have my own place. But I'm also learning that I'm more comfortable in my own place. It's quieter. It's easier to get around. My hallway is 42 inches wide, so I have plenty of room to go down the hallway. And I thank God I've not hit anything yet. It's plenty of space to kind of roll through it. And a 42-inch hallway is not like your standard hallway.
Oh, no.
So it's definitely plenty of room. I mean, I still need to remove my leg rest to kind of turn around and things like that. So, but I don't expect to be able to turn around in the hallway. But
do you have a 6-wheel drive or a 4-wheel drive chair?
I have a rear wheel drive wheelchair. It's a Quickie 636
Have you thought about my chair that I have can turn on a dime, and when I say turn on a dime, I literally, now if you watch, okay, I don't know if you can see the small space I'm in, but I'm going to get in the middle and just show you.
Then it's probably a mid-wheel drive, isn't it? Oh, that's awesome. See, that's awesome.
Now, you see that that's a mid-wheel drive. This is, and that's what makes it so wonderful for small areas. I'm like, man, I could never go back to oh my God, this chair is like, this system is so much better for suspension and how things, and the reason I ask you is because, with the new home, that might be a better option for you. So you don't have to bend down and take your leg rest off and do this. I got to put them back on because that wears out the pins and the mechanisms. And
it does. I mean, I'm sitting in my 10-year-old wheelchair right now because the one that the medical supply company got, a couple years ago is still in the shop. And it's actually, my goal was to, have my basement as storage for all of my medical equipment. So that's, that's what I'm doing with that. And I did get a automatic door installed, so I do like that feature. because I can push a button, it opens the door. The only thing is that you only get 9 seconds to go in and out of the door, so you got to move quick. And I tell people,
9 seconds, 9, 8,
yeah,
7,
don't.
6. Oh,
So it's like, don't stand at the door because the door is going to hit you if you stand there too long.
Now, did they put if something's in front of the door, will it stop?
It'll try to keep going, but then it'll stop, and then you have to let the door close, and then it'll reopen. So it's a
that's not really beneficiary if it.
No, well, the thing of it is we were trying to figure out what type of automatic door system to install. So what they've done is that they custom made mine to where it has a commercial door opener, like a arm, and then it has like sort of your home, attributes for like the buttons and stuff like that to open and close the door.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they kind of custom made that one. And I think mainly just to try to get it in under budget and everything. So that was one too.
As far as getting into your house, did they custom build the ramp and everything too?
The ramp is kind of like a deck, so it kind of goes out, and so I have one ramp that kind of it covers the front door and the side door. So it's got a concrete slab on the front for the patio, and then on the side it has a deck that comes out, and then the ramp kind of goes down, and so that's made out of treated wood, and it's just stained.
Good question here. Do you have carpet or hardwood floors?
I had them install the hardwood floors because we had an argument about the carpet actually, because they wanted to install this really pretty commercial square carpet stuff that you kind of, well, when it gets dirty, you're going to remove the carpet squares. And I'm like, who's going to remove the carpet squares? It's not going to be me. So, and I prefer the hardwood. And I had, the hardwood put in my apartment as well. I actually paid the apartment complex like $1,100 for them to do that, because the way that I clean, I like to mop it up with a Swiffer and use, the Fabuloso, the stuff that smells like lavender. It's really, it's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So that's what I use in my home. And I use the Swiffer basically to mop it up. Every day I just kind of roll through here and sweep it up. And so it's actually
house maintenance, brother. That's exactly, see, and that's another thing that you mentioned. If you do little things every day, stores don't get big. If you clean your bathroom once a week, if you do your laundry once a week, if you mop your floors once a week. Now, as far as now, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Kind of, how do you change your bed sheets and stuff like that?
Well, I have an adjustable bed, and I kind of cheat. So I crawl on the bed to do the top part, and then I slide down and I'll do the corners. But I move the bed away from the wall so that I could go around the bed and then latch it on the corner. But a lot of times I'll start at the top and I'll hop on my bed and I'll just crawl up there and hook it, and then I'll slide down, get in my chair, and then do the bottom end of the bed. So but I use the tilt, or not the tilt, but the 0G button on my bed to kind of fold it to where it's easier to reach the corner. Mm-hmm. And then once the corners are in, then I unfold the bed and it's magically already, it's in place. It's a bit of a process, but that's the way I get it done. I mean, I really hate to ask people to do stuff for me if I can do it myself. And only because there's going to be times when you're going to need to ask someone for help. And I just want to make sure that if I'm going to ask someone for help, that it's really necessary. Like I'm snowed in and I can't get to the grocery store because I'm snowed in right now. That might be it.
I love that attitude, because that's something I don't like asking for help either.
No, and I like playing wheelchair Frogger, and that means me rolling outside in my wheelchair, doing what I got to do without getting run over, and being out there, being visible so people can see, hey, he's got a disability, but he's still getting stuff done. Like we're still capable of getting those things done that we need to get done, right? And so I've had the experience, rolling down the street with my dry cleaning, like, hey, what's this guy doing with his dry cleaning hanging off the back of the chair? Like, I mean, it's because I don't drive, so I do everything either via paratransit, train, airplane, you name it. All right,
if you got an airplane in your basement, you and I need to talk.
But
this is your captain speaking. I'm like,
so like last week I got to ride the train to Jefferson City to talk about some House bills and some legislation for those that are blind and visually impaired. So I went down there with the Federation of the Blind to discuss, access to technology and things that we need to teach students Braille, so that when they become older, they're able to be more independent and be competitive like their peers. So, and I'd never ridden the train before, and I thought that was very interesting. And so 16 degrees outside, it was really cold and snowy, but I got in there, and
you think I'm going out in 16-degree weather? I got two words for you.
It's for me, I like getting out there and just playing wheelchair Frogger. I try to do it safely, but
All right, so we're going to define the wheelchair Frogger in a minute, because we didn't define that on the last show, and I'm not going to let that get by this time. But question: you probably have the plugs that can be activated to turn on the lights, on and off the lights. I have a wheelchair that will lift me up to standing mid-level, Pride mobility level. So
yeah, that's good. I'm going to say something funny and probably not so funny, because I like my chair being made out of metal and not plastic, because I already know that I'm going to roll the chair. So, and I might do this several times in a year. So I need to be able to sort of like crash it, roll it, beat it up, because a Permobil doesn't, like, I've tried that once and I broke it within 6 months, because I'm really rough on my wheelchairs. I had them actually drill a hole in the frame, because there's a bracket where the armrest, hooks to the chair. And so when the chair flips over, that bracket's going to pop off. So I try to be prepared for, if and when I roll the wheelchair.
I will say with the Permobils, they've made a lot of headway, I guess is the way.
That's good.
I'm a quickie guy myself. Don't take that as that guy.
No, the chair brand, yes.
There we go on the Disability Global broadcast. That was not meant as that sounded. I'm a quickie brand guy myself.
Yeah,
yeah, my viewers are going, what? Woo! Okay, moving right along. I think they hold up better. They're more durable. But I find, going back to how the chair is, this is my chair represents my legs.
Like the way that I look at a Permobil, like I look at a quickie as kind of a workhorse, and the Permobil is kind of like the date night wheelchair, like, so it's a little bit more.
We're going down that level again there, Tony.
Anyhow, so it's just I guess a little bit more refined of a chair, in the sense that it's more professional looking.
And I get so we talked a little bit about how do you feel living? What sense of freedom does it give you to live in your own home?
I mean, it lets me know, and it reminds me every day that I'm capable of doing the things that anyone else is capable of doing. In the simple act of just taking out the trash, I think sometimes surprises my neighbors, but it's me being a homeowner is just sort of trying to be like everybody else, just be the normal guy down the street. Although for some people, I don't look normal because I'm rolling out in my chair and whatnot, and I'll get out on the road and I'll start going down the street. And my neighbor, the first time I took my trash outside, and I had a 45-gallon bag of trash, on my lap coming down the ramp. And they're like, "You got that?" I'm like, "I got this. It's fine." And so, and I do that, a couple times a week, every week. And so now they've gotten used to me, just kind of doing my stuff out on the yard and, raking the lawn and whatnot. And I think it's important for us to just do those daily activities as much as we can. And there's going to be moments where we ask for help, and we all need help. But the thing of it is I feel a sense of pride in being able to do things myself. And as I said on the last show, I don't have a PCA now, nor do I really want one. I want to be able to have the technology in my home and have it situated to where I can do most of it myself.
I like that, because it's a good outlook. But I want to say this, and I'm not in any way trying to change your mindset, but I want you to think about one thing. You were the type of person, when I was growing up, I wish I had your attitude, because I was not the independent person that I am now. I was do it for me. I was woe is me. I'm cute and I'm in the chair and I'm all alone and I need your help. And but here's the thing. with the PCA, okay, sometimes, and I get what you're coming from with your home, and I'm glad that you're independent and getting it to where you want it to be, to where you don't need it. But I think there's a lot of things still that whether it's an organization or somebody that builds a house or somebody that does something that they take for granted, not meaning to, not realizing,
right,
this has to be at the level where I can reach it. This has to be, it's not going to do me any good to have aesthetically pleasing cabinets that I can't use. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want that, 30-gallon drum that's my trash can that's 6 feet high, because you know what? I can't reach it. Now, this is kind of why I say about the PCA. The hardest thing for me to do is laundry, because I have the washer with the agitator in the middle. But I like that washer because they last a long time. And when you get a washer with all those doodads and buttons and front loader and this, that, 2 years out of using that something, it's going to break. And then you got to get it replaced. So what I did is I bought the agitating washer, and I got the 5-year warranty. And I said, look, if this bad boy breaks at $4.99, y'all going to send me another one. I'm just letting you know. Because some people do need help, and it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's just, for me, it's a personal preference more than anything else. And what I'm finding as I get older, I'm having to realize that it's okay to ask for help. And so, and it's one of those situations where, my partner, my best friend, he's like, you're always helping people, let me help you do this because, you need help to do this. And it's hard for me to accept that sometimes, to say, okay, yes, you're right, I do need help.
I've got 3 more questions for you. We got a little over 15 minutes. One, you talked a little bit about lawn care. Do you have a riding mower? How do you cut the grass?
Right now I don't have any grass at the moment, and I'm trying to reduce the fact that I will have some grass eventually. So my idea is to put out some pavers and concrete most of the yard, and then put in some raised gardens, like for flower beds and things, so that I can sort of have, in the springtime, I can have the plants and I can have the flowers, and then the middle of the yard, I guess mostly would be asphalt and concrete, and there'll be a little patch where there'll be some grass, and an entertainment space in the back of the house. But I've been doing some research on some of these remote control lawnmowers, and I may have to hire somebody to do the lawn for a while. But my goal is eventually to get a remote control lawnmower and try to mow the lawn, just because I want to be able to do that myself. I've always wanted to. My brother says, we need to get you a riding lawnmower, and I may try that to see how that.
I will tell you, one of the greatest things about having a power chair is using a push mower. For the first time in my life, I mowed a lawn, and I'm holding on to I had one of the Troy builds where you hold on to the thing and use 2 fingers, and I'm driving my chair, and it's just mowing and my mom's like,
there's a lot of things now that I'm a homeowner that I want to do for the first time, just for for the experience and the knowledge, and so that I can tell myself, hey, I did that. Having that sense of pride to because that's what it's about, is being able to do the things that you want to do and live the life you want. So one of the things I told Habitat was, well, instead of worrying about accessibility, now I can worry about how is Tony going to live his life? How are you going to experience life differently now that you don't have to worry about accessibility? And I think that's the biggest part of becoming a homeowner that has been really impactful for me, is focusing more on what I'm going to be able to do and not worried about, how am I going to take a shower tomorrow, type thing.
And that's such a big weight off your shoulders now, that the accessibility, for the most part, is where you need it. And of course, you're still working on that, and there's going to be some modifications.
But I think it's all a journey. We all have to learn how to articulate what we need and why we need it, and not so much in the sense of, don't take the attitude that you're going to complain about a situation, but more, I take it like, okay, this is an opportunity to educate someone on something they don't understand. And maybe, maybe I didn't articulate well enough what it is that I needed and what my needs are. So then part of my independent living journey is exploring, what is it that I need to be successful? What are the resources that I need near me? Like, for instance, when I was searching for a home, I wanted to be near a pharmacy. I wanted to be on a bus line. I wanted to be near the grocery store, so that I would put myself in a position where if I needed to go get, my medications at the pharmacy, I can roll down to the corner and go get them, without calling a cab, or, because sometimes you have an emergency. Oh, I forgot, a bag of ice. Let me go get a bag of ice at the corner store. So one of the things I was looking for was a way to situate myself, strategic placement, to where I, could increase independence by strategic placement. So location. I mean, I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley near the Texas-Mexico border, and now I'm in the Midwest. And, I've created an environment where I can live an independent life, but it was also about strategically placing myself and giving myself that opportunity to have the independent lifestyle that I wanted. So
and it's good that you thought about that, because that's a need, to get your ice, to get your tomatoes, to get your tamales, to get your whatever you need.
Right.
And that's something that I'm with my apartment. Thank God, I'm right near the store. I'm right near a Little Caesars. I'm right near a Subway. I'm right near an Ollie's. I'm right near a Family Dollar store. I have.
Yeah, no, I thank God every day that there's a Popeyes around the corner.
Well, I know. Yeah, I thank God for that too, but my waistline don't. But anyway, we'll just so really quickly, if you can, would you please define this is Wheelchair Frogger. What because I've heard you say it and I'm like, okay, we gotta get him.
Okay, so for me, Wheelchair Frogger is living independently, being visible, maneuvering, the city without getting run over. And I say this like, how you're rolling down the sidewalk and you might hit a pothole, or you might, you're crossing the street and somebody decides to sideswipe you, because you're trying to cross the street and you had the walk light and they proceeded to cross in front of you. And the way that I got the name Wheelchair Frogger is I was working for, another company, for a business company, and they had a coffee shop across the street. Actually, it was more like a 4-lane road. And my coworker, it was a mile to go all the way around to get this coffee. So my coworker says, "Oh, there's Tony playing Wheelchair Frogger," because I was in the turn lane in my wheelchair, getting ready to cross, a section of 2-lane roads. And so that's how I got the name. But Wheelchair Frogger kind of stuck with me. And for me, it's sort of like, live independently, do what you got to do, but live it safely. And try not to get run over.
That is awesome.
So it's about getting out there and being visible and representing to the world that in spite of you being in a wheelchair, you can get stuff done. You can, as we used to say, with the Atari and you're playing Frogger back in the 80s. That's where that came from. Like for me, that was my favorite video game growing up as a child. So now instead of being sort of upset about my disability and where I'm at with it, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get out there and play Wheelchair Frogger so people know that I'm here and that I'm capable and that I'm living life to the fullest, Awesome. So I guess in a nutshell, that's what I would say. And I think I wrote down a definition, a technical definition, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But just, get out there, live independently, and don't get run over. That's
pretty awesome. All right, so this is a new segment on the show, and it's called 10 Questions. And again, we want to keep this clean, but I'm trying to spice up the show a little bit, put a little mayonnaise on it, kind of get a little different aspects. So these 10 questions that I'm going to ask you are completely random.
Okay.
And they're just kind of just to get to know you a little bit better. I've done it with every show in 2022. So 10 questions. Tony, what is your favorite sound?
I would say, I guess, the sound of the train, because I live right by the train tracks, so I hear them every night.
Okay. What is your least favorite sound?
Probably, a cat screeching at my window trying to get in, or hearing a cat whine all the time. That would be like my least favorite sound.
Okay. What is your favorite word?
I would say planning is my favorite word. Because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. Okay. So with everything that we do, we have to plan and plan for our day, plan for our, accommodating our disability. So for me, that's why, planning is very important, because if I'm going to get out and do something, I got to plan ahead.
What is your least favorite word?
Probably, I don't know, moist, I guess would be my least favorite word, just because it's like my chair and then like trying to keep it dry, and like in a hot summer day, it's like I'm sweating and like, no, that whole, so, but anyhow.
Tell me something that makes you smile.
I don't know, just a good joke, I guess, would make me smile. Some good music, I like to play a lot of music. So, I guess that's what makes me happy is, jamming out. And I call my place Club Wheelchair Frogger when I've got the music going. So, it's just really loud. We'd be jamming in here most of the time.
All right. Tell me something that irritates you to no end.
I would say, I guess when people make appointments and they don't make time to let you know that something's going on and they leave you hanging, that's like my least favorite thing, So you are planning to do something and then somebody doesn't show up. I get so annoyed by that, and because as a person with a disability, it takes a lot for you to get ready to get out the door and to do the things that you do. And then so when you're going to meet someone or, go talk to them, and they don't show up, it just kind of like, I wasted all that energy for nothing. So,
Okay. If you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
I would say, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of happy-go-lucky most of the time. But, not always, but most of the time, I would say.
Okay. And finally, if it was your last day on Earth, and you could deliver a message to the world, what would you want the world to know about Toney?
I would just say that, that I hope that everyone, has the opportunity to live independently and that we work together to help each other, achieve those goals, is something that I work towards every day, trying to help people do that. And I think it's, what I'd like for people to do if, today was my last day on Earth, is just continue to do that, continue to advocate, because we need advocates at every level. I mean, you have this talk show, this radio show. Some of us advocate by, talking to, city council or city hall, or speaking to a school principal about, inaccessibility and those things. So at every level, we all have opportunities to sort of talk about, independence and independent living and what it means to us. And so that's what, I guess I'd like people to take away from that.
Okay. Last question. What is your short-term goal for 2022, and what is your long-term goal for 2022?
My short-term goal, I guess, is to successfully complete my cybersecurity training. I've started that at the University of Kansas. And then my long-term goal is just to sort of, complete the home that I'm now living in and create that 100% accessibility environment that will allow me to have fun and entertain and enjoy life, I guess. That would be my long-term.
Well, dude, you are an awesome guest. I'm glad to have you back for a part 2. We'll be glad to have you back again at some point. I don't know when that will be. I'm going to give you just any final thoughts and any last thing you want to share, or how can people find you or follow you if you want to share that.
Well, I'm available. I guess mostly on Facebook, Tony Waterhouse Leal. I'm easy to find. Anyone can feel free to just message me. And I do have, a disability blog that's linked to my Facebook page, where I try to post resources and information from time to time as well. And so anyone's welcome to sort of reach out and just talk about, what challenges you face. I know for me, as someone with cerebral palsy, getting into physical fitness and keeping it moving is one of the more important things that I'm working on right now. And I'm realizing that the more that I work out, the more that I try to stay active, the more I'm able to move around and be functional as a person with cerebral palsy. So that's something that, I'm also working on as well. And I've been on this wheelchair CrossFit journey for some time now also. And
well, so that is awesome. And Milton, Tony is from. He's actually in Kansas City right now. So, but he's from the Mexico border, and it was where
the Rio Grande Valley. That's where I grew up.
Valley, so.
And then I went to school in Austin. So then I was in Austin, Texas, and Central Texas, and then from Central Texas I moved to Kansas City. And then my parents lived in California. So I feel like I'm from all over. I've been playing wheelchair frogger across the country, and you know. Who knows?
And you still have your life and haven't lost a man yet.
No,
well, we want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank all my viewers today for tuning in and leaving comments. This has been an awesome show. Show 85 was thrilling and alive. So I'm going to say this, guys, if you want to be a guest on the show, please feel free to email me at carterdj85@gmail.com. Please, in the subject line, put possible guest for My CP Does Not Define Me. Include a short bio about yourself and a picture. You can follow me on My CP Does Not Define Me on YouTube, Chairmaster Games on YouTube, Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter. You can follow me on Twitter at My CP Does Not Define Me at Minion Sports. You can follow me on Instagram at My CP Does Not Define Me. You can follow me on my blog at CarterDJ85 at wixsite.com. I am getting ready to launch my album, so I will have a music site coming up. That's actually working and going, and all of that is on the way. But we will be available next Wednesday at 2 p.m. for episode 86. Yeah. If it ain't broke, it don't need to be fixed. My CP Does Not Define Me. So we look forward to seeing you there. And I always say, Tony, just stay right with me if you will. If you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with the roll away, and we will see you next week for episode 86 of My CP Does Not Define Me.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week.
Awesome, thanks, DJ. And you know, I'm getting ready to make a T-shirt for Wheelchair Frogger. I have a design being designed at the moment.
Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. If you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, we post all of the show videos in our My CP playlist. I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.
Sorry about that. I kind of